We are doing another wonderful edition here of our Champion Series, and we have today the very first ever Raw Deal World Champion, Mike. How are you, Mike?
Doing well. How are you, Tony?
I'm moderately okay, as always.
Good answer.
Well, I try to be moderately okay. I always say that I'm moderately okay because if I'm doing really high, people want to, they want to ride my coattails. When I'm doing really bad, they want to cheer me up. If I'm moderately okay, nobody fucks with me. Yeah, I bet you still play Raw Deal, or do you keep up with Raw Deal? Anything going on with you, Raw Deal, at all? Do you still have cards? I mean, what's going on with Raw Deal and you?
Well, I still have my Austin deck that I won the World Championship in 2002 with all of the foils signed by the late Baron Banger Toth, and also a few other cards signed by him. We have run some sealed deck tournaments locally in the last few years that I have participated in. I know there's been a couple of constructed events, but I don't have the cards for that. So I've been offered decks, but the game has changed a lot since I've last played. So even just joining in a sealed deck, it's fun, and whatever, it's $15, $20, support the local store. It's fun to do, and
Sure.
But I don't play very much anymore.
What was the last release that came out that you were still playing?
The last time I played regularly was the 2003 World Championships. I had actually stopped playing before that event, and basically just showed up because it was, to try to repeat. I'm sure if I had won again, I would have continued to play some more, but at that point I was not happy with the state of the game, and I wasn't enjoying it anymore, so I kind of stepped away.
What was it about the game that made you displeased with it?
I know I am in the very much minority about this, but I personally never liked the diversity rule. I didn't think that it was fair to reward players for playing bad superstars, and you had people that did well in events that didn't make a top 8, top 16 cut just because some guy decided to show up with his Rikishi deck and go 0-16. So he got a spot in there, and the person who went 7-1, but because they also played RTC, they didn't get in. I didn't think that was fair. That's probably me coming from my competitive Magic side. So,
sure.
And I felt like the game was, I really enjoyed it at first because it was a very quick paced game. And I know this was against the common way people played, that we actually played best of 3 locally very often. And I know most people hated that because wrestling is single pin, but where the games took, 10, maybe 15 minutes, you could play a best of 3. And
well, it's the same as having a 2 out of 3 falls match.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of how we looked at it. But a lot of the Raw Deal purists took great offense to that on the Yahoo groups, and they let us know that was not the way to play Raw Deal. And
the old Yahoo groups, man, I never forget those. Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty notorious in there. I talked a lot of shit.
Well, I mean, and then when you back it up because you're a world champion, I mean, come on. I mean, you deserve to talk some shit. I mean, you earned it.
Well, I think the thing that pissed people off most is I talked a lot of shit going into the World Championships.
Oh, and, so you had to back it up.
I actually had quite a feud with Team Canada. They did not like me because I would constantly refer to Canada as the 52nd state after Puerto Rico. Whenever I would type Canada in anything, I refused to capitalize it because you only capitalize proper nouns. So
wow.
I just did these things to get under their skin, and then I told them going into the event, I said, I'm going to win this, just like Marc Messier guaranteed the 94 Cup. I was guaranteeing I was winning the Raw Deal World Championship. And I actually have a large Mountain Dew cup that I had written before the event started on the top. It was a 64-ounce jug that we all got, that 2001 Gen Con World Champion, and that was before the event started. And
because is it 2001 or 2002? Because you're listed on Wikipedia 2002 World Champion.
I won the 2001 Gen Con World Championship, which qualified me for the 2002 World Championship.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it wasn't technically the World Champion. It was the biggest event at the time, but that's what qualified me to go to
It could be
worlds.
so there could be an argument made that you are a back-to-back two-time world champion almost.
I guess.
I mean, hey, I mean, if the Green Bay Packers use it to go and say, for their championship total run, why can't you?
And I got a buddy who's a Eagles fan, and he claims the Eagles have all these championships. And as a Pats fan, I just don't recognize them because, yeah, they beat us once, but we've got 6 of them, so who cares?
Yeah, 6-1. So the last release that you played, so you've been playing since you played during the time when there was no Backlash decks, and then you had to go into Backlash decks. How did you adjust, and how did you like the Backlash decks?
I actually really liked Backlash. I thought that added a nice wrinkle to the game when it was just pre-match and the mid-match stuff. But then when they started adding managers and pre-match ceremonies and other stuff, that's when it started.
Well, you had objects, and you had events, and you had managers, and then you had venues, and then you had, I mean, it kept going. And now in virtual, they've added, allegiances. So I mean, it's gotten more and more complex, obviously. But the game evolves, and you have to kind of, the game has to evolve. I've had this discussion with somebody on Twitter just today talking about how, virtual's too wordy. And I go, listen, there were plenty of cards that Common Games just put out that was very wordy too.
Yes, there were.
So, it's like, well, I wish it would go back to when it wasn't so wordy. Could you please be more specific on when it was not so wordy? I mean, if you're just talking about Premier and Fully Loaded, then yeah, I guess that's what you liked.
Yeah, but there were some Premier and Fully Loaded cards that were pretty wordy too. So
sure. I mean, you got someone like, Xavier Woods from WWE. He played Raw Deal too, but he only played during those first 2 releases. He didn't like anything that has the Backlash deck at all. Doesn't like that. I don't think he's been properly trained. That's all. So, but so the early years, like Premier, Fully Loaded, you played through Backlash. Did you play during the Survivor Series?
That's when they first came out with foils, correct?
That was the first. Best of series.
Yeah, I did play through that. I think that's when I was kind of starting to step away a little bit, but I was definitely still playing during that time.
And then they had It's All About the Game, which is like a little holiday type of package that came out.
The trash can?
Yes.
Yep, I definitely.
And then after that was Mania.
Yep, I play tested that set.
Okay, you play tested that one.
Yes.
So you're part of the play testing. Oh, you are. I don't have any actual inventory. My partner who runs everything, I'm in Arizona. My partner runs everything out of Wisconsin, so he has all of my inventory. He runs it for me. So I don't even have any rule books around me. It's like that. So I couldn't even verify and check that out. But I had no idea you were in the rule book. So, and then did you play during SummerSlam?
I think SummerSlam was about when I stopped. I think I played that one, and that was about it.
After that was Ruthless Aggression, which was like the box.
Yeah, I don't think I played in that.
Because after that came Velocity, came after that. It's like that. But so I mean, your time frame was long before there was volleys and heat and chain and all that stuff. So
right.
Does all that stuff kind of scare you trying to get back into it? If you wanted to get back into it, or you have no interest in that at all?
I don't really have any interest in getting back into it. I mean, it was definitely fun at the time, but it's just the virtual side of it just doesn't interest me. People making their own sets, and it's.
Have you checked out the virtual stuff? Have you even peeked at it? It's like that because it's basically Team Cannon Online's development team. Creed and Nate and some of those guys were all part of helping create that game and continue the game.
Actually, Creed stole my socks in Los Angeles, but pretty sure it was him that did it.
He stole your socks? We
went out there for an event. He stole my socks. So it was a joke back in the day. And I used it as my tagline for a while on the Yahoo groups.
Tell me about that. How the hell did he steal your socks? Like literally stole your socks.
I don't honestly remember. I just remember it being a tagline on my Yahoo groups for a while. I think I just lost them, and myself and I'd gone out there with my friend Chuck, and also we went out there and met up with Darian and Brian, the 2 guys from Team The Best.
Okay.
And we stayed with them and played an event out there. It was actually the weekend of the Snow Bowl game between the Pats and the Raiders. So we're out there in LA watching the Pats win that game. Mm-hmm. And he stole my socks while we were out there. So you're still gonna live it by that, huh? Still gonna hold him up to that. It's all my socks. I wonder if he's still keeping your socks. I wonder if he still has them. He probably does. Just to hold it over your head? Yeah.
It's so funny that Creed coming from I know that Creed originally came from California, I bet, but I didn't know him. So when he was in Oklahoma, we had a player in California in SoCal. 'Cause I'm from SoCal. We had a guy named Alan, and then we always go Alan. And so then it just coincidentally, Alan ended up moving the same week that Creed moved, and Creed moved from Oklahoma to our area, and coincidentally, Alan moved from our area to Oklahoma.
Okay.
So when Creed moved out, he started participating when I was running events out there and took part in all of our Adam Christ Memorial tournaments. Uh, did you ever know Adam? Did you ever meet Adam or know him?
I don't think so. No,
But
I
you've
might
heard,
have, but
yeah, I mean, everybody's heard of Adam. Come on.
I don't think I have. I might have. But
Oh, Adam Kreitz. We have a whole episode that we did about on our YouTube channel about Adam Kreitz like that. But Adam was an amazing guy that kept the game. Because you're from the East Coast.
yes.
So you're East Coast, which is where the game really thrived the most, and most is because East Coast, especially the upper, Northeast, is really that's wrestling town. I mean, there's
Yeah.
some spots in southern in the South, but on the West Coast, we're so fickle about everything, even celebrities and this, that, and the other. So, but Adam kept the game very relevant and very important on the West Coast, and he was the West Coast. I mean, he made it very big. We had the best in the West and all these different things. And when he passed, we tried to keep and honor him by having the Adam Christ Memorial Tournament, which became a big deal and a big event every year for about 9 years.
Okay.
But yeah, so East Coast, West Coast, like that. But so let's talk about you started Raw Deal. How did you discover Raw Deal? How did you discover Raw Deal?
I used to hang out at the local store called Knight's Quest, and
Which is where actually?
it was in Gardner, Mass.
Okay.
So that was my local store. I used to play Magic there. We had a big L5R scene back in the day, and it was very much a anti-Magic store. Everyone wanted to play something other than Magic.
Why is that?
And I think it's just like
it's unusual.
it is. It was a game that never took off there originally. There was a lot of, like I said, a lot of the Star Wars, the old Decipher one was played. Raw Deal got picked up. L5R, Magi Nation was a big hit for a while. That was another game that really took off there.
By the way, all these games are all 100% foreign to me. I know,
Yeah.
I've never played or know any other game but Raw Deal, but I've
There's
heard the names.
other games that were played at the time, and I think it was just almost like I don't know, just people. That was the number one game, so people wanted to stay away from it. They wanted to play something else, and a couple of the owners were big wrestling fans, and the wrestling game showed up, and people started playing it, and it looked fun. So,
Are you a wrestling fan? Were you a wrestling fan too, or still are, or no, or?
I was a wrestling fan in the '80s. Like I was a big Hogan and Warrior and Andre the Giant, and I did. So not really. I mean, I liked it. It was fun, but I kind of outgrew it. And then, so we're talking. This is probably 2000, 2001, when the Raw Deal came out in 2000, right?
2000, 2001 premiere. Yeah, premiere.
Yeah. So we're talking that time frame. So I'm, 20, 21 years old, and people started playing it, and I was always willing to try new games. And I picked it up and just started playing it. And I tend to be a competitive player. So my first idea was, okay, let's find out what the best deck is, and let's try to abuse it. And I settled on Austin. I thought Triple H and Austin were the two best out of Premier, just because of the hand size on Triple H. And then I looked at Austin and said, okay, you start with 7 cards, but your first turn you're looking at 9, then you're looking at 11, then you're looking at 13 cards. So, you had a lot more card selection. So I went over to Austin and started playing him. And I've never been much of a deck builder. I tend to be more of the take other people's ideas and make them better. So I taken my buddy Chuck's basis of his Triple H deck and made it into Austin and tweaked it and made it a little better. And that's kind of what I started out playing, and that's how I fell on him.
Just abuse the shit out of him, huh?
Exactly. And myself and my buddy Duncan, because the other guys in the store had started Team Better Than You. That's what they called themselves on the Yahoo group. So myself and Duncan started out with Team Austin Isn't Broken. And, we only did that for a short time, and then we just merged in together because we were all friends anyways. It was just more of a joke. So we all became Team Better Than You, and we had a good local scene of players that just kept picking up the new, the game and working on it. And we were perplexed because we would go on Team Canada and the Squared Circle and see deck lists that people were playing, and we're just like, not sound arrogant, but we're like, their decks are bad. That's what we thought. And we thought we were playing.
You thought you were you thought you were Team Better Than You.
Exactly, we were better than all of them, so we were Team BTY, and we just kind of started playing, and then they just started running events in the store, and we kind of became a central area. And then, Barron, being only an hour and a half away down in Connecticut, started coming up to our events. And when you've got one of the creators of the game showing up at your store to play in your events,
sure,
kind of gives them another level of shows that they're well-run events and everything else. So I think it even drew more people. I mean, we were drawing people. We had guys flying from California to play in a couple of our events. And,
really?
yeah.
Like on a regular basis, how many people would come in at the store and play it?
We would have regular weekly events with 20 people, but wow. We had three times a year we ran big events. We had Quest Mania, which fell right around WrestleMania. We do it that weekend. Quest Fest was always in the summer, and then October Quest was our October event, and those were the events that we really pushed. I still remember when Chuck had put together the first one, which was, I believe it was Quest Fest, which was in the summer, that first summer that the game was getting big, and I remember him telling me, hey, we're going to do an event, and we're going to give away a heavyweight belt to the winner, and it's going to be free to enter. And I remember he's like, yeah, a couple of those things a bad idea because the belts were like $100, $150 at the time. It's like running a free event for that big of a number, and then all of a sudden you run it and make a whole weekend out of it. And he was running sealed decks and other events, and the main event drew it's 55, 60 people.
Wow.
So it was like, okay, yeah, this is going to work. And also running sealed events that weekend. And I know at the time that was the biggest weekend the store ever did, was just running that huge Raw Deal event, because we had guys driving in from all over the state and surrounding states. And like I said, Barron came up for that event. And
it's a lot different when you're in the East Coast, though, because you can literally drive in 5 hours in any direction. You can pretty much be in so many different states. Whereas me being in California, I can drive 5 hours and still be in California.
We drove down to Neutral Ground for one of their bigger events one time, so it's a good 4.5, 5 hour ride, but that was the big store down in New York City. Yeah. So you're right, that's definitely an advantage. We have a huge population density when you look at the whole area.
Of course, yeah. So in 2001, you guys held a tournament. You went to Gen Con and played in 2001.
Yes.
And this is not a world championship event, but it's still a championship event.
So in 2001, they ran Gen Con and Origins that summer. In the winter of Origins, which is, Gen Con was in August, I want to say Origins was June. So in June, Clint Hayes won that event that qualified him for Worlds in Toronto. And then in August, they ran another one that was at Gen Con, and that's the one that I won that qualified me for Toronto.
Gotcha. Okay. So then we get into 2002, which becomes the very first Raw Deal World Championship.
Yes.
And so you've qualified for that. You get there, and what's it like? How many players are coming in to play that?
4.
Only 4?
It's only 4.
Only 4 people playing the World Championships.
Yes, because you had to qualify for it.
Were there any side games going on, or any games to get any other games, or just that's it, World Championships and done?
That was it. They did run testing, or learn to play type things at the Raw Deal, because that World Championship was actually at the WWF Fan Access, or WWE. The Fan Access event. So, Comic Images had a booth that was maybe 4 or 5 tables big, and they had, they were selling product, and
probably a 10 by 10 booth or something like that.
Yeah. They also sold Beanie Babies and a few other wrestling.
And at the time, they still sold trading cards, I think, too, I believe. No, 2002, no, they did not. They lost the license in 01. And 2002 is when Fleer took over. But, they were, I knew Comic Images before Raw Deal, because as a seller of Raw Deal, I actually sold wrestling trading cards before I ever got in a Raw Deal. I didn't get in a Raw Deal until I think Vengeance. So way later I got into it. I missed all that stuff. I knew of it and it was wrestling based, but I had no interest in it because it was a game and I sold trading cards. And I had built a relationship with Hank and especially Alan Gordon. I had built a relationship with those guys in the trading card aspect. So when I decided to branch off and get into something different, I talked to Alan. Alan's like, yeah, you should give it a try. And I ended up getting into it. And then Alan and I worked out some deals and I started buying inventory. And then actually I did, I attended Gen Con in Anaheim, California, was Gen Con was there. And that's where I met my one and only time meeting Baron. And
Okay.
Baron's the one who taught me how to play the game.
So you didn't learn very well then.
Yeah, well, trust me, I had learned the game prior to a couple of guys who I never could win. I've told the story on several episodes before, but I've actually would play these guys. I could never win, no matter what. Every time I thought that I was learning the game, 'cause I don't have any experience with other games.
Yeah.
Every time I thought I was learning the game and getting better, I still lose. And it turns out they were always taking advantage of my lack of knowledge and go, oh, well, that's not really how that card works. It works this way. Then I found out through Baron. Baron goes, no, these guys have been fucking with you. They are taking advantage of you. And so he taught me better mechanics and how to understand the game, and knowing that it's not always about the shiny cards or the best cards. Sometimes some of these common uncommon cards could be just as good. So I learned.
I know Baron from playing Magic with him well before Raw Deal was a thing. And Baron was a very good Magic player. And I think Baron, he wanted to play with his more obscure cards in his game to kind of really showcase what the game had to offer. So I fully believe if Baron wanted to be better at Raw Deal, he could have been, but he showed up at events and he was the big lovable guy who was having a good time and playing that card that you've never seen anyone else play.
Yep.
And just enjoying it. So, you know, he was, we always used to joke that he wasn't even good at his own game, but I always knew he could have been good at it, but he just chose to have fun.
It's kind of like how when we had Adam Kreitz running the West Coast stuff like that, he's everybody has a great story to talk about Adam, but they always say the same thing. Couldn't build a deck to win anything. I mean, he really couldn't. I mean, he'd pull out cards like, why are you playing that card of all cards? Why do you have that in your deck? I think he was that same way, the same mentality. It's like that, but he was so involved and liked to play and stuff like that, and really, getting the games going and stuff like that. So I think there's similarities there.
And how much fun is it to show up if you're some like 12-year-old kid and you're like, hey, I just beat the guy who created this game. I'm really awesome. Like,
yeah,
I'm sure that's part of Baron's fun is he wanted. And if you're the creator, you can't be winning your events because that just looks really bad.
Yeah,
so
it's a good marketing ploy.
Exactly.
So you get there's only 4 of you guys playing. This is again. I'm a guy who came in so late in the games like that. So to know those old tournaments and what went on, I got to find out that only 4 people play is news to me. Like I didn't know that.
Well, I know 2003 was also only 4 of us as well.
Really?
Yes.
Again, did not know that. That's the one that Brian Witt had won. And I hope to get him on one day as well. So you get in there. Is there any special format? Is it a one and done? That's it? You move on? That's it? Or is there like a best of? Or
so how it ran was we opened up with a Survivor Series. I think it is. We're all 4 of us are playing at the exact same time. And it was the order we were eliminated. So whoever went out first would have the worst tiebreaker. So whoever went out second would have the second worst. Whoever went out third would have the second best. And then whoever won it would have the best tiebreakers in case there was a tie at the end. And then there was 3 rounds of constructed. So we each picked a deck and we played round robin, the 4 of us. And then it was 3 rounds of sealed. We each got a random starter deck, played each other round robin, and then 3 more rounds of constructed. And whoever had the best record after that, the 2 best records would play off in a 2 out of 3 pinfalls to see who won.
Okay, so 2 out of 3. Because at the time the game was kind of like we were talking earlier, it was very fast paced. So you can get games in within 15, 20 minutes tops,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was starting to slow down a little bit at this point because
Backlash was already out.
Yeah. Was it?
Came out in 2002, I think.
Yeah.
Backlash.
Yeah, because we played Backlash. The first events with Backlash, we had them at Gen Con in 2001. The main event wasn't with Backlash, but they did run side events with Backlash. So, and I remember I was actually reading my tournament report that I wrote up after that event, which is awful. I can fully admit in 2001, I couldn't write for anything. And I was reading and I played my buddy John in the semifinals. We were both playing Stonewall Rock decks that just dirtled and did nothing and stopped everything. And because I won the die roll, I scooped him and gave him the win because I knew I wouldn't win, that we were both just drawing out our decks.
Interesting. So you played a lot of games to determine who's going to be the world champion. It wasn't like just the four of you guys showed up and then best 2 out of 3 and then you're done with it kind of thing.
Yes. I actually have that. I wrote a tournament report for that one too. It's, I would say, a little bit better, but it's not as good as if I wrote it today.
And now, because I didn't go back and check, I'm sure I can go to Wayback Machines like that and find the old Comic Images website and probably has, your article you wrote up probably, right?
I'm sure it's there.
Okay. But you said it on your own computer for yourself?
Well, it was actually on the Team BTY website that we had. It was a GeoSites back in the day. And yeah, I know.
GeoCities and Angel Fire.
GeoCities, yeah. And so I at some point, John Brulé was our local guy who ran our website, the click.to/teambty. And he, a couple of years ago, he's like, oh yeah, I still have that. And he sent it to me. So it was fun to go back and read that one.
That's nice.
So
you win 2002. You're crowned the very first Raw Deal World Champion. What was your scratch, man? What'd you get?
So after that event, they just told us, sit tight for a little bit and we'll do everything. And then 6 o'clock, or they told us to be back at the booth at 5 minutes of 6. We get back there and Hank walked us over to the ring that they had set up at Fan Access.
Yep.
And they actually called us all in one by one. I don't remember the exact order. I know I was called last as the champion. And then we're kind of just standing there waiting, and all of a sudden we hear Chris Benoit's entrance music. And
nice.
He came into the ring and presented me with my trophy that I got. And also the belt that I had, and I got that belt signed by Chris Benoit.
Interesting. Nice.
So, of all the signatures to have, he's, in some ways not the best one to have now, unfortunately, with what happened with him. But
well, of course, but to some people, it's still, that's a rarity to get that. I mean, even some of the very limited trading cards that are out there that he signed, they still fetch some good money for that stuff.
Yeah, I'm guessing that belt with his signature on is probably worth a decent amount. It's not something I would ever want to get rid of. It's got more personal value than anything else to me.
Of course.
But I have a couple of nice pictures of myself and Hank and Benoit in that ring, and him presenting me with the trophy and everything. So.
Oh, it's too bad you can't share those.
I mean, it's in the Scry magazine.
Oh, nice.
So I don't know how well it'll show up, but I did. This is Scry magazine from June of 2002, June, and it's got a nice write-up of the World Championship with how well.
Oh, look at that! Look at that! Yeah, I can see it.
So,
interesting. Oh, that's Hank, and there's Chris. Yeah, there they are.
That's the three of us. That's the white Raw Deal shirt that we were all given and got to wear.
Nice.
So, but it was a lot of fun. It was a really cool event. I mean, Comic Images did a great job. I mean, I know that's my World Championship, but to me, the Gen Con win was a lot more difficult. It was 150 players versus 4.
Wow. So, yeah, I didn't even talk about that. So the Gen Con one, so you had 150 players in that one, huh?
Yes.
That's like a whole weekend event right there to get through that, or single elimination?
Well, what they did, so Gen Con started on Thursday. On Thursday they actually had, which was at the time the biggest tournament, which is a 95-person event that one of our other Team B2I members, Rob, won with his Taz deck. And then on Friday, they did another event that was 75 people that I won. In both of those two events, the winner got 3 rounds of buys in the World Championship event, or the Gen Con World Championship.
Sure.
So, and then they had the Gen Con World Championship, which was 100 and was in the 147 players,
Wow.
and that was the big event. And when I was reading my tournament report, I was surprised to see that on Friday after I won my event, I then played in the sealed deck until 3:30 in the morning, and got to the event site at 8:30 for the Raw Deal World Championship. And I'm like, if I tried to do that today, I wouldn't make it.
Yeah, we get older, man. We can't do that kind of stuff. It's like it's youth, man, youth.
Then played a 12 or a 9 round event, or no, 8 round event followed by a top 16. So I got the 3 rounds of buys, and then in the 4th round I played a China player, so I'm playing China, and won. And then in the next 4 rounds I played undefeated Austin decks against my Austin deck, and won all those rounds, and then went through the championship as well. So I went 12-0 in that event.
Nice.
So,
that's a big ass event, man. Almost 150 people. It's a big ass event.
The finals of that was also 2 out of 3. It was myself and John Walker.
Oh, so John. Okay.
But that was definitely the tougher of the 2 events to win, just because, you know, the sheer amount of variance you have with that many players. I mean,
absolutely.
There's only so much planning you can do for that. You just, especially with best out of one bad draw and you're done. There's no mulligan rule if you draw a hand of all maneuvers and just hit the wrong reversals all the way through. I mean, with my Austin deck, I had numerous games that I won on my first turn, and I played with all 3 belts, so I always went first. Mm-hmm. And it was just like you could just steamroll people.
That's not very fun in some respect. I mean, yeah, everybody calls it an MPE, man. They call it negative play experience. So yeah, vastly different. You're playing a lot of people in that event, and you play only 4 people in the World Championships event.
Well, I will say I did give one player a negative play experience during the Gen Con one, because he threw his deck at me after I beat him.
Oh, shit. Wow. Just threw it at you. And he probably has never played since, I bet.
He picked it up and threw it, and I was like, oh, and I just picked it up and gave it back and said, oh, you dropped this.
You dropped this. No, I meant to throw it at your ass. That's what I meant to do. So 2002, that's amazing. So you get to meet Chris Benoit. You get in there, you get a belt signed, you got a cup. They give you any kind of prize cards? I mean, Baron signed some stuff for you?
Oh yeah, Baron was always willing to sign stuff. I do have an uncut sheet. A couple of those signed by Baron and Mike Foley and Jeff Englar. He was the other playtester that they had. So I probably have 4 or 5 uncut sheets from different events that I won out there.
Nice.
Doing the World Championship in Gen Con. And the one thing you don't realize about uncut sheets, getting them through airport security is not fun.
No, I'm sure it's not. I bet getting that belt wasn't probably easy to get through either.
No, I remember them opening my suitcase and looking at it. And I'm sure it was WrestleMania weekend, so they probably saw a few others, but still, it was also 2002. So
you're like, listen here, lady. I'm legit world champion. No shit.
Unlike the other people, to prove it.
Yeah. Unlike the other people coming through with belts, I'm actually a legit world champion. That's so cool. It's like that. So you win, you bask in your glory. Are you planning on going back for 2003 at this point or no?
I mean, if I'm qualified, I'm not going to turn down a free trip to WrestleMania. And
do you not automatically qualify as a world champion?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. When I won in 2002, yeah, I mean, I was definitely going to go back in 2003, just as a, free trip to WrestleMania.
So because they didn't offer a trip to WrestleMania for the 2002, right?
No, by winning Gen Con, I got a trip to WrestleMania.
Oh, so you did get it. Yeah, so you got a trip to WrestleMania by winning Gen Con.
Oh, yeah. Yes, okay. Sorry about that. Yeah.
So in 2002, part of your prize booty wasn't anything other than the belt and some cards and a trophy, right?
And a trip to WrestleMania in 2003.
You got a trip to WrestleMania in 2003. Okay, so you got a trip to WrestleMania. So you go to 2003, and you didn't have to qualify at all, obviously.
Right. I qualified by winning the year before.
Okay, so you go there, and what's that experience like? Is there more players? It's still 4 players.
It's still 4 players. It was the same, similarly run. The only difference was in 2002, 2 people could show up with the same deck, and it was fine. But in 2003, they made us choose our decks beforehand, and if anyone picked the same deck, they would randomly decide who got to keep that deck. And in 2003, Right to Censor was completely broken and made the game not fun because they had that 7-mana backlash reversal. I don't remember what it was called. They
Yep.
called it Censored.
Yep.
And they were just stupidly broken. And I said going into it when they announced it, I said whoever gets RTC is going to win the event, and it's exactly what happened because it was by far the best deck. It was tier 1 all by itself at that point.
All by itself, huh? Nothing else competed with that.
No, and I think Baron was good friends with Stevie Richards, so I think that was part of his love for RTC, and the deck was just too good. And we tried different things to try to beat it, but Censored was just too good of a card, and it was too hard to beat. So I went into the event just to have some fun, and I was one match away from making it to the finals again, and didn't quite get there. And then Brian, I don't remember who he beat in the finals, but Brian ended up winning that finals match.
Yes, because he's down as a 2003 world champions like that. So
and then
every
Brian
other world,
and I were put on a card together.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So did you also get to design a card? Because every world champion got to design a card.
No, I didn't get to design a card.
No?
No. I'm on a couple of cards, but I never designed one.
Because I believe that's what the world champion got after that point, I guess, right? They got to design a card.
That's very possible. I don't know. It's the first I'm hearing of it.
Well, I mean, Brian developed Can You Believe the Writ Retort, right?
Oh, he developed the card that I'm on with him? I didn't know that.
I'm assuming. I may be wrong.
Yeah.
I could be very wrong. My understanding was that, and it's still to this day, even with virtual stuff and all the virtual world championships, you get to make help design a card. I know that when Wes won in 2004, he did the Road to Victory. That's what he did. And then Frankie, developed his card as well too. And then so that's my I just thought that everybody got to develop a card.
Yeah, maybe they were after him. Probably because Baron knew me very well and knew I wasn't really playing much. He never offered it to me. So
if you got to make a card, anything on top of your head that you'd make at the time that you thought needed to be kind of like more balanced, maybe, or something like that, or you probably would have tried to find a way to nerf the shit out of RTC. I'm sure.
Probably that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. I used to love playing Austin, so I probably would have wanted to have done something around him at that time because that was well before RTC was a thing.
Well, I don't think that anybody got to develop a superstar specific. It was a non-superstar specific, something to help everybody can kind of use in the game. But so 2003, you get there, and it's like that, and similar, thing, 4 players like that. You've got to the finals.
No, I lost I was one match away from getting to the finals. So in the last round, it was myself and Brian playing, and the winner got to the finals. Brian beat me, so he went to the finals and ended up winning it.
He's running the RTC deck, I bet. So that's probably why, right?
I don't know if he was playing RTC at because it was similar where you played a deck, then we did sealed, then you played another deck. So he might have. I don't know if he was on RTC at that point or not, or if he played that the first set of games. So
is that the last year you qualified for Worlds? Did you ever go try to qualify again?
I never tried again.
Never tried again?
No.
So you kept playing at the local store though, right? Knight's Quest?
I played a little bit here and there for Raw Deal, but I mostly went over to Magic after that. I kind of just
to the enemy game that the store did not support.
Yes, exactly. Magic is what got me into it. I had been playing that for a long time, and I was kind of on that cusp of qualifying for more events in Magic, so I kept trying to do that, and
So the store now, we were talking off the air before we started, so the store has changed names.
Yes, the original Knight's Quest closed in 2007, and then about 3.5 years ago now, Game Nights opened up with one of the same owners, and also, so it's Chuck and John, who are both Team BTY. So Chuck was an owner in the original store, and him and John have always been good friends, and they have a third owner, BJ. So there is a a new store in Gardner that supports some Raw Deal, but a lot of Magic and Warhammer and other games as well.
How are they supporting Raw Deal in today's environment?
Just every now and then they've run sealed events at the store.
It's got to be hard to do. It's not so little of it out there now.
Yeah, I know. A couple years ago at Gen Con, John bought a couple of starter deck boxes and had some booster packs, and they've run it off of that. Obviously, with no Gen Con this year, I don't know how their Raw Deal supply is, but
Sure.
they've run 3 events so far that have been sealed decks. They've been doing it in the fall every year, it seems.
Now,
So,
is Luke Lash the one that's kind of running those events now?
Luke has not run any at game nights. He's run a couple in Acton. He's
Okay.
tried to find more centrally located areas because there's a small group of players up in New Hampshire. There's some more in Eastern Mass. So I know he's run a couple. I think he ran one up in like Manchester, New Hampshire, and I think he's done the last couple at Gaming Etc. in Acton, which
Yeah,
is about 35, 40 minutes from us.
he's running some pretty big events out there, which is pretty impressive, and it seems like he's doing a great job out in that area. There's a lot of guys who play for nostalgia purposes, who are like older players like I played, and I guess there's a lot of new players coming in too. From a sales standpoint, from my website, I can tell that I see a lot of newer players buying stuff that I've never sold to before, but for the most part, it's still a lot of 50-50 right now, returning customers. But guys like Luke who are really helping the game out, it's like that. It's been a great thing. And so it's nice to see that there's still some activity going on out there, even from just a nostalgia purpose. It's really kind of fun.
Yeah, I know they've run some constructed events, and I know that's I don't have the cards to do that, and maybe I can go off your website and buy some and make a deck.
But you have again, we were off the air talking about earlier. You said that recently you've played a couple of games. You played a couple of events.
Yep. They did a sealed deck. The last time they did a sealed deck, I played in it, and I got Hogan and ended up with a bunch of grapples that I couldn't play and things like that.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of frustrating from that aspect. That it was like you get the deck and the packs, and it's like you only have very limited in my options of what I could play. But that's the fun of sealed deck. You never know what you're going to get and what you're going to open. And and when it comes down to it, I didn't care about winning. If I had won, I would have just given the packs back to the store because I know they gave away packs as prizes, and I'm just like, I don't have any use for them. I'd rather just give them to the store and let them use them for prize support next time.
So. You should get someone in that area who can actually construct a cube. The cube format of the game is very fun, especially for people who either never played before or people who have been out of it for so long, don't have a lot of the new stuff. You wouldn't have stuff like Revolution of the Mind and Get the F Out, stuff like that, that have become staples in the game to this day. So doing a cube format is so much fun because it doesn't matter what you get. It still works within the decks like that. It's so much fun to play.
Now, I've played a lot of cube Magic. Is it sealed deck usually that when you do cubes with Raw Deal, or
somebody will put together their cube collection or a cube, whatever you want to call it, so like that, where it's like you get superstars, you get the superstar and their 4 support cards. It could be an ultra rare, it could be a starter, who knows. And then you have either packs or stacks that you can. There's a bidding process, and I'm not the best guy to describe how it works like that, but it really makes the field very balanced. Even if you pulled and got stuff like there was, tag team cards or specific for tag team, you get to ignore that trait and it still becomes, valid to your deck. And it's a lot of fun because it puts everybody at an even playing field. It really does. I highly recommend it. Drew, who was a guy out in California, put together a cube that was a lot of fun to play. The last time I ever played was maybe 3-4 years ago. So,
when we've done our sealed deck, we've used that rule of any superstar card you open, you can play because just makes the game more fun.
Obviously, yeah. And then you kind of you eliminate the tag team logo traits like that. And if it's applicable to your deck where you can still reverse a strike or a grapple or a high risk, you still get to use it then. So I mean, you get to use it. Not as ignore the whole as a tag team kind of concept. You get to use it. So so what got you out of Raw Deal then? Just disinterest of playing, formats, the game evolving?
For me, it was just that I felt like the game just got, it went from just a fun, simple game that you could play in 20 minutes to games taking 45 minutes, and the pre-match was taking longer than a a regular game. And
Still does this day, mind you, still does.
And that's kind of what pushed me away from it. It just, I lost interest due to that. And, it was too bad because I really enjoyed the game for a long time.
That'd be right around the time of probably before Ruthless Aggression, I think, probably before that. So you got involved. You still did the first Survivor Series, which was best of basically, and then I guess did you not also say diversity rule was not a big? You're not a big fan of the diversity rule.
No, I was never a fan of that either. But I could. It just drove me crazy. Like for example, in the first event at Gen Con, I had gone. I think it was 6-1 and didn't make it because I lost to an Austin player in the last round. I mean, if I won that, I would have been 7-0 instead of him. But because I lost that match, even though I was 6-1, better than a lot of the vast majority of the people in the event, I didn't get into the top 8 or top 16. So that kind of.
Yeah, I kind of would have been pissed off about that too, having a better record than people getting.
But like the argument that people always say is, if you show up with the best deck, you got to beat the best deck. So.
That's why it's called the best in the world, man. That's why you play the world champion. Is there anything about Raw Deal that you missed though? Anything at all?
I definitely miss the community. I mean, I just remember having a lot of fun at those events. I mean, honestly, Baron, I miss him a lot. Like, he was such a great guy, and I kind of lost touch with him for a couple of years. But I remember hearing when he had passed away, just it hurt because he was just such a nice guy. I remember I was at a Red Sox game once with my dad, and Baron calls me and just starts singing a song to me during over on my phone and stuff. He'd always make up silly songs at events and stuff like that, and he was just a fun guy to hang out with. He's
what would probably be like your best Baron story?
I mean, he used to just go around saying, "He's better. He's better. He's better than you." I remember going to Shooters with him, which was a local pool hall in Gardner. This was during one of the Quest events. And
I hate to interrupt like that. I think you might be shaking a little bit like that because I can hear that constant.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, we went to our local pool hall, and and Baron's just walking around, just talking to every single person. He's from Connecticut, doesn't know anyone, but yet he's making best friends with everyone in the pool hall. And that was the person he was. He was just a very social guy. And
a lot of people say that he was very, very, very much nothing against his size, but just larger than life.
Exactly. That's exactly what he was. He took his size and just had fun with it and just made friends with whoever was there. So
I only have my one experience, but he was very kind, and he was just like, "Oh no, those people teaching you taught you all wrong," and learning the game, going, "Oh, so that's why that card is valuable. I get it now." It's just so I never played any qualifying events. I never played in any world championships. I only made a brief appearance in 2016 or 17 Gen Con. Just kind of showed up to hand out prizes and stuff like that. That was pretty much it. But it's always interesting to talk to some former world champions who have experience about, especially those days. I mean, you're the very first ever world champion. I mean, you can't really top that. You're the first world champion. I mean, no one ever gets to say that except for you.
That's true.
And you got that beautiful belt behind you, signed by a name. I mean, let's just say it's a name, despite the controversy, a name that I think a lot of people are still like, I don't give a shit. I'd still take that belt.
You know what, too, is I think for a long time he was really looked upon negatively, but I think with all we know now about things like CTE, I think a lot of people look at it and go, you know what? Yes, it was his fault that he did it. What he did was obviously wrong, but I think there's some understanding that,
yeah, no one's ever going to
injuries behind what he did.
No one's going to discount the horrific thing that he did, but you're still going to have a lot of the guys out there, whether they're just trying to start shit or not, who just like to go, I respect him for what he did in the ring. I just in the ring, so like that. So I get it from both sides. But to me, as a wrestling fan, I would think that that's still a really kick-ass piece of memorabilia you got right there. I mean, anytime you're like, yeah, it's going to throw it out, I'm like, hey, me, Mike, I'll take it. So
And
it's a really cool piece like that. But yeah, it's like it's really talk about like it's it's Jurassic days of Raw Deal, man. It's like just four guys just duking it out. That's pretty much all it is. And now as it went on years, I mean, they had 30, 40, 50 plus people playing in world championship tournaments.
okay, I didn't know how. I know they had gone up to like 8 and 16 a few of the years after, but I
Sure.
didn't know they got that large. So
I mean, I have another world champion I'll be talking to here tomorrow night, and he again, I think there's only 4 or 5 people came and played for that one, and that's where you kind of saw where it went from this, and then it kind of went up to number wise, and it came right back down. And obviously after Kamagima just stopped producing, but guys kept the game alive with the virtual stuff, which has really helped, and the names numbers of people have coming out has really was there, and then it kind of went down and. Even the one I showed up at, there was probably, I think, 12 or 14 people playing in a tournament for the World Championships. But having heard what it was the last 2 years doesn't surprise me. It's gone down to what it is. And now it's like people don't, there's no real prize support. There's no trip to WrestleMania. There's no that kind of thing, and you got to pay to get into Gen Con, and you got to pay, to play in the game, the tournaments, and blah, blah, blah. So I get the whole notion of having to play things like Lackey or on Discord or things like that, and playing in those kind of formats. And I think that's kind of where Raw Deal's at, where it still lives and breathes, is people still want to play and have physical cards and play locally, but in a world champion type setting, it's going to be all through, virtual stuff. Something going on over there?
yeah, my dog is now wearing a sweater with owls on it, and I don't know where they came from.
Well, I'm sure he didn't put it on himself.
No, the girlfriend just got home from the store, and the dog is in a sweater now. So,
Okay.
and it's not cold here, so.
Well, it ain't cool. I'm in Arizona, man. It's today was a very cool day of 97, so that was a cool day. Not triple digits, a beautiful thing.
It was in the 80s here, but
Oh wow,
not 97.
I'd still be wearing I'd be wearing a sweater too in 80s.
No, I.
Have you ever thought about even dipping into like checking out? You have no interest in virtual whatsoever, correct?
I looked at it some of the first few sets they did, and it wasn't for me. I mean, it may have gotten a lot better since then. Like, it just seemed like every.
I mean, what turned you off? Was it the back? The number one thing people who've played before, looking at getting back in now, say is because it's too much purple. There's too many purple cards, whether it be the pre-match and the backstage area as well, with so much shenanigan cards and like that. And I get that. But I know with Virtual 11 coming out any day now, Virtual 11's coming out, and that's supposed to really shift the game quite a bit. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if people in my local store started playing and people started showing up with the cards printed out, I would take a look at it again. I mean, it definitely was a game that I had a lot of fun, a lot of late nights after the store closed with friends, just dropping suplexes and DDTs on each other and just having a great time. And then so I definitely miss it at times, but
I think it's the number one thing people will talk about is the one thing about this game, because again, you're a Magic player. I'm sure you've played other games too besides Magic.
Yeah.
But the one thing about Raw Deal that I've heard from everybody so far is the community. They miss the camaraderie between people and the friendship that they developed because of Raw Deal. So have you developed friendships because of Raw Deal, or do you still have the friends you all got into Raw Deal at the same time, that kind of stuff?
I mean, I've definitely become much better friends with guys like Chuck and John and Rob through Raw Deal. I mean, I definitely knew them from playing at the old store, but, we drove down to New York together, and we flew to Gen Con together, and we went to lots of events down in Connecticut together. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely developed friendships with those guys from playing Raw Deal. And,
We've got some guys I've talked to before, like, oh yeah, shit, I made friends because our Raw Deal became part of became my best man at my wedding.
Yeah. When you sit in a car for 5 hours to someone in a little Dodge Storm driving down to neutral ground with guys.
You're either going to be friends or hate each other for life.
my good friend Ian Taylor, who was the rules manager for a few years. I mean, I've been friends with him for. I mean, I was friends with him for Magic before that, but he's someone that I've known for a long time and played Raw Deal with and everything else. So he
Well, it's
actually.
never too late to get back in.
That's true. So going into Origins in 2000 and would have been Origins 2002. Backlash had been out. That or the whole Backlash deck had been out, and for a long time I wasn't playing the card Backlash because I always said that everyone assumes everyone has it, so why waste a slot with that?
Sure.
And Ian decided to write an article saying 10 things you don't know about Mike Canu, and one of them was he never plays Backlash. And this is going into Gen Con. I'm like, well, I guess I have to play Backlash at Gen Con.
Yeah.
First person, or I think the second person I played against plays 2 moves against me. I'm like, Backlash? And he's like, Ian said you never played. It's like, well, I didn't until he wrote that article. And I remember going up to Ian after that happened and thanking him for that win because, he made me play Backlash, but it got me a win. So,
How can you not, man? You set me up for that.
At that point,
yeah. You set you up for that, man. Anybody was, you have to. You just have to. So, that's awesome, man.
Yeah. So, I've got good friends like that I've made through or become better friends with through Raw Deal. So
have you kept all your cards, even everything you've ever collected over the years? I mean,
I sold a lot of it a long time ago on eBay, but I kept my Austin deck that I won with. I still have the elbow to the face set aside, the one that I played to win the World Championship. That was the card that killed my opponent. So
okay.
Which my opponent made a play mistake and shouldn't have done it, but
got to capitalize.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have any grapple reversals left in my deck, and he rolled out of the ring for an eye rake, for a DDT and something else, and played the eye rake first, and I had the elbow to the face to stop it, and it killed him.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I still have that, and I still have some of this stuff when I've done sealed decks. I still have a bunch of the signed belts that Baron had signed for me back in the day. So I have a bunch of cards signed by Stevie Richards and
do you have Benoit sign any cards that year?
I don't have anything signed by Benoit, but one of our local players, Robbie Z, was used to run Stevie Richards' website, so he had a bunch of cards signed by him. So I have a few of those,
nice.
Even though it's RTC.
Nice. You hate RTC, even they hate them. Well, that's cool, man. I really appreciate that you were able to take some time to talk about your championship. And, it's my goal to get everybody who's been a champion on an episode at least. And it's just kind of nice to talk to some of the people who've been, the older players like that. You don't get much older in championships than you.
That's true.
So it's nice to, to talk about that time frame because it's before my time and I don't know anything about that. So I'm learning something from you about those formats and stuff. But I think people have a fun time just kind of reminiscing and nostalgia purposes, really, So, I mean, I hope it's good for you to talk about those times,
Oh, it was definitely fun. I mean, it's something I haven't really talked about much in the last few years. So It was good to. I did go look at some of my old tournament reports to remind myself of some of the things that happened and everything else, just because it's been a long time. And,
it's a lifetime ago, I'm sure. Yeah,
it is. I mean,
we're talking almost we're talking almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, so
getting close.
Yeah, and so it's almost half my life.
Yeah.
So it's but it was a lot of fun. You know what? Those days in my 20s it was fun. I mean, I was in college, didn't have to worry about much, so you just go out there, have fun, and hang out with your friends and go to the safe house and drink until 3:30 in the morning and then get up early and play Raw Deal.
Playing a championship and win it. Like you're basically at that point, because you're playing Stone Cold, you're living your gimmick basically.
Yeah, I basically was here. I didn't even think of it that way. So,
yeah. So yeah. It's
As in August of 2001, I was 22. I was barely old enough to drink. So
yeah. But you're living the gimmick, man. You're having fun. It's awesome. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on and reminiscing and talking about it like that. And I really appreciate your time, man.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a good time. I enjoyed it.
So I hope to have this up soon. It's like that. But yeah, again, thanks. And I hope that we can talk again sometime. We'll have some other format to talk with you about.
And if there's other Raw Deal people from early days that you want to talk to some of them, I can
Absolutely.
definitely, let me know through Facebook, and I can set you up with like John or Chuck that played for a long time and still play some. So
yeah, it sounds like it'd be good. It'd be like a little round table type thing and talking about the old days like that. Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
All right,
That's
man.
good.
I appreciate it, Mike.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you again sometime soon, I hope.
Hey, thanks, Tony.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Out.
Bye.